stayed off, and in 2 terms, I never got so much as a postcard saying, where is that essential state employee that you furloughed back in January of 1991? Again, they said it couldn't be done. Well, what you do when people tell you it can't be done is to do it. And then you say, well, I just did it. And that's the way you have to do things in politics sometimes. In terms of policy initiatives, again, I kind of trod where no one had trod before. I've gotten to be very good friends with a good number of gays and lesbians during the campaign, and came out of the chute my first couple of months with a whole bunch of executive orders overturning existing state policy which denied gays and lesbians visitation rights, bereavement rights. I mean, it was atrocious what the legal position to be gay or lesbian in Massachusetts in 1991 was. So I repealed that, rolled it back. These to me seem very minor steps. It was a national firestorm. People said, you can't do this, you're overturning the order. This is for the legislature. These are societal judgments. You can't do that. And again, my response was, I just did. And that all held up. You know, no other governor touched that for the longest time. And I didn't care, but those policy steps all ripened into not just policy in other states, but into national policy as well. One of my proudest moments was to appoint Margaret Marshall to the Supreme Court of Massachusetts. Margaret Marshall was a South African. I happen to know that she was head of the National Union of Students in South Africa, and I also happen to know that she had been expelled from the country by the apartheid regime in South Africa, and I thought that was a pretty good day's work, given what the apartheid regime in South Africa looked like. So she was a totally unknown South African who emigrated to the United States and was a good corporate litigator in a good Boston law firm, but no one would have looked twice at her. She's married to a liberal columnist for the New York Times, Tony Lewis, who's a personal hero of mine because his book, Gideon's Trumpet, about the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, sent me to law school. Anyway, I nominated Margaret Marshall to the Supreme Court to the great surprise of the press, which had predicted Margaret Marshall has 2 chances to be appointed to the Supreme Court, slim and none. It turned out they were wrong about that. She turned out to be a great Chief Justice, and I knew enough about how the international community worked to know that her being expelled from the country and keeping her head high meant that she had a degree of sand in her, as Huck Finn used to say of Mary Jane. She had more sand than any girl I ever knew. He didn't know he was in love with Mary Jane, but he was.